Hello, everyone. Welcome to Penny for Your Thoughts. I'm here with Jack, the editor of the opinion column at the DP. This is our opinion podcast where we will be going more in depth on the opinion pieces our staffers are writing. Jack, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, guys. I'm Jack, and I'm the opinion editor for the 141. Super excited to start back up Penny for Your Thoughts.
Yeah, and I'm Carolina. I'm the podcast editor here, and I'm super excited to be part of this super fun new project. So, Jack, why did you want to restart Penny for Your Thoughts?
That's a great question. Because here at Opinion, we get a lot of press kind of randomly. I feel like we put out our pieces, and then they start conversations on campus. We get posted on side chat, something like that. And when I was a columnist, I just really wanted almost a second chance to kind of explain myself. And I feel like this is the best format for that because we can always write a second follow-up column. We can do something like that. We can explain ourselves to our friends. But I really wanted there to be a platform for my staffers to kind of take what they had written and explain why they wrote it, why they want to defend their position, something like that. And so I think Penny for Your Thoughts is a great platform to do that.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome. I'm so excited to get this back up and running again. And just kind of I think you kind of hit on it a little bit, but kind of what do you think Penny for Your Thoughts is kind of going to do in terms of, I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but in terms of the opinion columns and just kind of what do you think people will be able to really gain from, besides, that second opinion, just what do you think the purpose of Penny for Your Thoughts will be in the future?
Yeah, I think that's a great kind of follow up. Penny for Your Thoughts, in my mind, will kind of serve as a much deeper dive into a certain opinion piece. We're not going to be covering every single piece that we write, obviously, which is 7-10 columns a week. We'll probably meet with one columnist. And so we'll kind of just take a look at what did the audience really find valuable from that piece, and we'll just talk about it in a lot greater depth. So that's something that, opinion pieces varies 600, 700 words. They're not super long, but if we can have a solid amount of time to come together and talk about these topics that are very clearly important to the student body, I think there's a lot of value there to be had for our listeners.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that, it is really valuable to just kind of, be able to really deep dive into things that, there's so much to say on every single topic. And obviously being that it's an opinion, people are going to differ in the way that they think about things. And so just being able to really fully encapsulate exactly, and maybe even looking at things from a different perspective, or maybe understanding someone's perspective a little bit more. I think that's always valuable. And I think that that's going to be really, really beneficial for, your staffers and also for our readers and our listeners. So I think that that's awesome. So just kind of a more fun question. What's your favorite opinion piece that you've ever written?
That's a great question. I agree with everything you said too. My favorite piece I've written, I'm going to do a piece that I wrote this last semester right before I ran for editor. It was called America Needs to Ditch the Ivy League. Really funny situation. I actually kind of wrote it over the summer, and I ended up publishing it in October. But it was basically just about how, there's kind of an elitist narrative around meritocracy and prestigious education that I think we need to dispel. That was kind of the heart of the piece, which is fine in and of itself, but it very quickly, I put a nice flashy headline on there, so it really quickly got posted on side chat after it appeared on the DP Instagram. And about a month or so prior to me publishing that, I had changed my Instagram bio to aspiring coastal elite, which is, ironic. But it was mostly a joke at the time that I just forgot to fix. And then the top comment on the DP Instagram was funny opinion for somebody who's an aspiring coastal elite. So then that got a lot of press on side chat. And that, honestly, pretty much a good exigence for something like this, where it's I can explain to some people that aspiring coastal elite was a joke. It's a joke I had to leave up there though, because I can't let them know that I'm bothered,
right?
Because I'm not.
Exactly.
But no, it's funny. It was. I thought it was a very well done piece too. I think it's some of my best writing. At least it's been published in the DP. So yeah, I really enjoyed. America Needs to Ditch the Ivy League. That's right.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of on the flip side, being that you're editor and that you've kind of had so much experience reading through pieces and stuff, what's your favorite piece that you've read?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think my favorite piece that I read was also from this last semester, from an amazing new freshman columnist named Piper. She wrote a piece about her background being from West Virginia and as a rural student, which is something I'm very interested in, just because, I'm not from a very rural background, but I've learned so much about that kind of upbringing, that kind of lifestyle from my roommate, who is from a very rural part of northern Pennsylvania. And so I really liked her perspective because the biggest thing she talked about was like everybody would say like, oh, I'm so glad you got out of there, meaning like left West Virginia to come to Penn, and how like she would always just kind of like laugh and agree, but that's not necessarily like what she was trying to do. It was a really, really interesting perspective, and I think it really like captured the rural student experience very well here at Penn, which I think is something that we don't talk about enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I mean, you know, no one really wants my opinion, but I'll tell you my favorite article that I've ever read. It's actually a good friend of mine. I think it's really interesting. She wrote about side chat, and I think that that's so funny, like just obviously because, you know, especially the opinion column is so susceptible to just being on side chat all the time. And I think it was really interesting the way that she kind of like framed, you know, the side chat experience and kind of just like what, you know, the interesting, like how interesting of a platform it really is, because it's just, I've never, like, people just don't really see things like that typically. And I think that, like, you know, it's just kind of weird to look at and just like see the way that people interact and like the way that people behave on that app is just really, really interesting to see. So just like seeing the way that she kind of framed her experiences with side chat was something that I thought was really, really interesting. And it's also just always so cool to like read pieces from people that, you know, and like, you know, it's a different side to them that you don't really see every single day. And I think that that's also kind of, you know, really interesting in terms of like Piper's piece as well. You know, like you're talking about something that people kind of have a certain, you know, mindset on, and you're talking about it from a very different perspective where you might not necessarily like not behave, but you might not react that same way. Like when someone frames the question to you, like, or asks you about like your upbringing or like your opinion on a certain piece. Like, I think that, you know, the opinion column is just such like a great place for you to really just like explore, you know, what you truly think and like what you're actually feeling instead of, you know, what other people expect you to like say or do. And I think that that's so awesome.
I could not agree more. And I also love Eliza's piece. She's
so great.
Such a talented writer. And it's also like a really important conversation to have that I think she sparked with like, what do we really say under anonymity? Like, are we still experiencing this kind of social pressure to feel like, oh, I have to talk badly about my experience at Penn because like that's like the popular consensus, and like how does that rub off on like our actual attitudes? Like, is Penn hating this self-fulfilling process that, you know, we can avoid?
Yeah.
And I think that like actually shortly after she published that piece, I deleted SideChat for a very long time. I have since re-downloaded SideChat, but I was off of SideChat for like a solid chunk of like freshman year and into sophomore year. So yeah, again, just speaking to the power that opinion columns can have. And again, that's something that I think would have been great to talk about on this kind of platform as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's awesome. So now we have a little new ritual for all of our episodes that we're going to do. So it might just be Jack and I, you know, sharing and exposing our hot takes every week, or it might be new people every week telling us about their hot takes. So Jack, what is your hot take of the week?
My hot take this week is that TikTok should get banned. It's been 12 hours since the TikTok ban took effect, and I think it is a good thing that we need to keep TikTok banned.
Guys, mine is back. I've been able to scroll back through it. It was the darkest 12 hours of my life. I'm not going to lie to you, honestly. Like, that was awful. I kept, you know, opening it, and it just wasn't there. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it was bad. It was really dark for me. So when it came back, I was really happy. I don't agree with that one, but I mean, I know not everyone's going to agree with mine. So I guess that's the beauty of it, right? It's a hot take for a reason.
Right. What is your hot take?
My hot take? I am not the biggest fan of Taylor Swift.
Yeah. No, that's a hot take I hear a lot more these days.
Well, and it's okay. It's not because of her music. It's not because of who she is. Or, okay, let me correct myself. It's not because of who she is. I think she's a great person. I think that she's very talented. But she very much gives, like, to me, I just never grew up with that music in my house, and it's just not something that, like, was part of my childhood, which I feel like is a big draw for most people. It's like the nostalgia of it all. And I'm not, like, I didn't ever have that experience, but, like, I don't know, she kind of gives me, like, a little bit of theater kid vibes, which no hate to theater kids at all. They're great. I love theater kids. All my best friends in high school were theater kids. It's just, it's not for me. It's not my cup. She's not my cup of tea, but I respect her very much, and I think she's a beautiful person. So no hate towards Taylor Swift. She's not my favorite person or my favorite artist.
Yeah, and that's valid. I think that, I mean, as a Swiftie myself, like I see that side. Like, I think that Swifties don't often give people the credit of, like, you know, Taylor Swift isn't for everyone.
Exactly.
But I don't know. I'm gonna disagree and just say that, like, I do hate TikTok. Like on my hot take, like, I have to hate TikTok because, like, stole my life from me. Like, you know, like
I
these 12
know.
hours, like I'm a new person. Like, we need to keep it banned so that I can like really, truly read.
I know. I told my dad, I was like, maybe I'll just pick up reading, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't
like
know.
open a book, like maybe
Go
watch
outside,
a movie.
go watch a movie, expand my attention span, maybe. I don't
Right,
know.
yeah.
But yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so I think that this was like a good little introduction, a little taste of what Penny of Your Thoughts will look like. It's so awesome to get this restarted. I'm so excited to see everything that's going to come out of it. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we're so excited to start this up again. Bye.